Alright, so we're going to simplify radicals. I should say that this is part 2, because if you recall in part 1 I showed you how to simplify radicals. Here are the things that you need to know. Basically, everyone should know up to 12 at least. And I'm going to rewrite it a little bit differently. Usually I say this is 1, this would be 1. And say square root of 1 equals radical 4 equals 2. Radical equal sign equals 3. That's not true. Radical 9 equals 3. Radical 16 equals 4, etc., etc. And which does not mean I should do it wrong. 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144. And these are all true. That's a 49, by the way. So we did things like this. We said radical 32 could be equal to 4 times 8, but it's also equal to 16 times 2. And I'm going to argue that this is the better one to use. Although both of them are correct. That one's the better one because we know that square root of 16 is 4. So you get 4 radical 2. What I want to show you now is, what if you had something like this? You had 5 radical 8. Well, what that actually does mean is radical 8 plus radical 8 plus radical 8. I probably should have done a smaller one, but that's fine. Now, what is radical 8? Well, see that 4 goes into 8. So I'm going to do 4 radical 2, 4 radical 2, 4, well, radical 4 radical 2, and we know that square root of 4 is 2, so I get 2 radical 2 plus 2 radical 2 plus 2 radical 2 plus 2 radical 2 plus 2 radical 2. Well, how many radical 2's do I have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Which equals 10 radical 2. Now, seems like an awful lot of work to do that question. So, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to show you the easier way to do this. I'm going to recognize that 5 radical 8 really means 5 times the square root of 8. But I know that square root of 8 is really square root of 4 times square root of 2, or radical 4 radical 2. So I'm going to keep my 5 the same. My radical 4 becomes a 2. My radical 2 I can't do anything with, so I leave it as radical 2. But I do know what 5 times 2 is. It's 10. 10 radical 2. So, put this all in really, really simple terms. I'm going to show you an easier way to look at it. A times radical b times c is equal to a times radical b times radical c. If either b or c is a perfect square, it will become an integer. And let's say, I'm going to write it up right over here, and let's say radical b equals k, which is an integer. Then we just get a times k radical c. I'm going to do one last example. I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to do it in a nice green color. So the last example is, let's say, 6 radical 50. Well, it's going to be 6 times the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. My 6 stays the same, but the square root of 25 is 5. Radical 2, I don't know what that actually is. Why? We can approximate. I get 6 times 5 is 30. Radical 2. That's it. So that's simplifying radicals part 2. That's when you have a constant in front.